Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues. I will accept the amendments requested by the committee. And the big question with my bill is, when is an election an election? I ran for re-election for the Orange County Treasurer 3 times, never had an opponent. So I get 98% of the vote and I win, but what was the reason for going through a single slate election? Was it even necessary? The results and the outcome would have been the same if they just said at the end of filing that you won the election, which is done for a lot of municipality races. But the way to have an election is to have at least 2 candidates for each open position. That is a double slate. A single slate is redundant and costly, and that's what's happening with homeowners associations. So, colleagues, the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act needs another but rather simple tweak. For the board elections, if only the same number of candidates or less apply for the amount of open seats during the filing period, then the nominees are considered elected by acclamation. I live in 2 homeowners associations, one here and one at home, and it's tough to get people to even run for the board of directors, but why should I be receiving a ballot in the mail after the filing period on a single slate? SB 754 saves on mailing and administrative costs. It's one community in my district, you'll hear the witness, it's a considerable cost. So this is identical to SB 1128, Senator Roth from last year. It went through the entire legislature with full support bipartisan, but it was vetoed by the governor because he felt that it should be done at the local level, but you need to be able to do it with some minor changes to the Davis-Sterling Act, and that's why we have this bill. So for those that have difficulty with 754, I would just recommend that they get a double slate, get more candidates than the available seats. And with that, colleagues, let's send SB 754 to our governor and give California's 50,000 plus impacted communities a budget-saving opportunity they will be thankful for, and I have witnesses.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes, if you would.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jeff Parker. I'm the CEO at Laguna Woods Village, very large homeowner association and common interest development, Southern California. We have 12,500 units, approximately 18,000 residents that live in our community. Most of the individuals in our community are on fixed income. Average age is approximately in the mid-70s. And we have 3 elections each year. And those elections are costing us approximately $60,000 on an annual basis, the 3 cumulative. In the last 2 years alone, we haven't had enough candidates to fill the seats, or just enough candidates to fill the seats, and yet we've gone ahead and had the election because of the law right now, and that's cost our residents, our community, $120,000, when with the acclamation that we're requesting, we would have been able to save that money for our residents and put that back into their pocketbook as opposed to just spending it for something that wasn't needed because we had the number of candidates but no extras. We've done our efforts in the last few years to reach out to people and get them involved, but I will tell you that this is a very active HOA, and there's a lot of committees and a lot of responsibilities for being on the board, and what we're finding is because it's an active community, they choose their activities in the way of golf, tennis, and others other than being on our board. So it's a real challenge, but we do want to get people to run. That would be the best, because that would be the best democratic way. But we're looking for a solution to save our residents money, and we'd appreciate your support. I just wanted to reiterate, I was a city manager previously in the city of Claremont and the city of Tustin, and in a couple of elections we had just enough candidates to run. It saved those cities $75,000 to $80,000 in both of those elections. So it means a lot to our residents to save that kind of money, and we appreciate your support on this bill.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witness in support? No. All right. Witnesses in opposition?
Madam Chair and
Good
members
afternoon.
of the committee. Good afternoon. Marjorie Murray again from the Center for California Homeowner Association Law. I won't belabor these basic points, which I have made before to the committee, but I'll focus on two issues. One is the cost issue. The other is that there is ample precedent in other governmental entities like school boards, even city councils, for the use of acclamation. However, what the supporters have omitted is that the use of acclamation is not absolute. There are options for the electorate to challenge the use of acclamation. And that's one of the main problems that we have with SB 754, that there is no opportunity for the electorate, that is for homeowners, to object to the use of acclamation. It's done by fiat by the board, which simply declares we can't find enough qualified people, and therefore we have gone out to find our own people, and we have filled the empty seats with the candidates that we have identified, which raises one of the other issues, that it's the board setting the qualifications. That is not the case with city councils and special districts and school boards. Those qualifications are set by the elections code. But in the homeowner association environment, you have no separation of powers. You have a board that sets qualifications, that runs the elections, that chooses the equivalent of the registrar of voters, that counts the ballots, and then declares the choice of directors a done deal. So it's not a very good comparison to say that these other governmental entities use acclamation, and therefore it should be mimicked in the homeowner association environment. And furthermore, in something like a school board, if enough voters, and this is set again in the elections code, demand that an election be held, it's held. But there is no such provision in SB 754. There is no opportunity to object.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Other witnesses in opposition?
Ramon Castablanc, California Alliance of Retired Americans, representing over 1 million Californians. We are strongly in opposition to this bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Jacob Marcus from Los Angeles. I oppose this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Elena Mondragon from Marina del Rey. I'm opposing this bill.
Patrick O'Rourke from Los Angeles. I oppose this bill.
Raylene Williams, City of Chowchilla, Madera County, and I oppose this bill. Thank you.
I represent Green Hills Association in Chowchilla, California, 750 voters, and we oppose the bill.
Thank you. Your name, sir?
I'm sorry, Michael Williams.
Thank you.
Hi, Teresa Lucas, West Sacramento, Yolo County, was Riva on the River, 252 condos. I was on the board. I have whatever, and the fact is it's dysfunctional, and I've got all the management.
Thank you.
Ellen D'Agostino. I live in a homeowners association in South Sacramento, and I'm opposed to this legislation as well.
Thank you.
Gus Petroborg, Placer County. I live in an association. We haven't had a nominating committee in 4 years or an election in 4 years.
My name is Ruben Niswanko, Roseville, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Hobbs from San Pedro, California. We've had the same board president for 30 years. I oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, this bill addresses when there are no other people running, so I think that that is a difference in what we've seen here. And the amendments also require elections. So if you haven't, some of these objections, while many are well taken, they aren't all reflective of the amendments that have been taken here. Let's see, we have amendments that protect against the abuse of disqualifications. I think this was Senator Wieckowski's concern about abusing the disqualification process as a method of insulating incumbents and their boards against dissent. And those have been incorporated in this bill. And of course, the goal is to acknowledge where there are not people running so that when there is no need for an election. But Senator Wieckowski pointed out 3 elections in 1 year. I mean, how does that happen?
We have 3 different mutuals, which they had 3 boards, separate boards, so they have, for each mutual, they have to have an election independently.
All right, and let me just finish up, then I'll go ahead and open it. The other amendment requires HOAs to conduct an election at the end of each director's expiring term, but in no event less than once every 4 years. So the concern about sort of the heavy-handedness, which is a problem, is avoided here, or is hopefully avoided here. And again, the goal here is when people do not wish to step up, that there will be those opportunities for acclamation, but certainly open to questions or comments from the members. Any questions, comments? Senator Caballero.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I guess, you know, as I've been reading all of these HOA bills coming through, I wonder, it seems to be the HOA year. Senator Wieckowski was commenting. I wonder whether this can be done in the bylaws of the HOA.
And it's my understanding, no, we need to have authoritative legislation to make the changes to the bylaw.
Okay. So my understanding is once we allow it as a permissible option, that then they can be adopted by the Board of Directors in the bylaws.
That's my understanding.
Okay. That clarifies it for me, because it just seems to me that to the extent that there are individuals that want to run against other individuals, you don't want to set it up so that you don't have to give notice and you're kind of just running the show all by yourself, right? You want to be able to protect the members of the HOA. So I appreciate your comment and the clarification. Thank you very much.
Senator Allen, followed by Senator Monning.
Just to protect the integrity of those elections, can you sort of walk through what's required in terms of notice so that folks will be given some degree of warning that, you know, there's an opportunity for them to run for the board and engage?
Well, there's already in law a requirement that you have a notice period. And so it's like a filing period. You're told by the homeowners association, if you want to serve on the board, please apply by this particular date.
How is that disseminated to the residents?
Oh, it depends. It's usually a management company that's hired by the board, and they handle all the administration for the board.
Do they have to mail something to all the different members? Is that?
That's how I get, at least that's how I get mine.
We also have the Inspector of Elections, which is hired as part of the process. And that's what with the village, because of the size, we've contract out the election process as far as handling all the ballots and noticing requirements. And so they would be required to do that noticing of 30 days prior to.
Okay, so can I just get clarification? Like the law says that every member of an HOA has to receive a mailed notice 30 days before the filing deadline. Is that the law? And that's the form of notice? Does there have to be posting or anything like that in the building, or?
Well, we would do that also, but this is just to make
What's
sure that
required under law? I mean, that may be best practice.
the 30 days.
Just okay. No posting is necessary under law?
I don't believe so.
I just wanted to jump in. I apologize, Senator. Existing law has a 45-day notice requirement. It's a general notice requirement that there's an election coming up. What this bill does, in addition to that, is if a board intends that acclamation may be an opportunity, 30 days before nominations are to close, they're required to send individual notice to each of their members. So that individual notice is either through email, through mail. They would also more than likely post it on their website and in common areas. But it would require individual notice because of the opponent's concerns over notice requirements. It requires individual notice.
But there's no individual notice. I thought you just said that when there's an election, there has to be individual notice as well.
Under this bill, you have to have individual notice 30 days prior to the close of nominations.
If there's no anyone else running beyond the incumbents?
If the board has the inclination that they might choose to use acclamation, in other words, if you don't provide that notice, you haven't met the letter of the law, and you wouldn't be able to use the acclamation process.
Okay, I sounds like it's a little murky about what the law is in terms of the notice required pre-acclamation.
The only notice that's required in existing law is the 45-day notice that an election will be coming up.
And that notice takes what form exactly?
I believe that is general notice, so that could be posted on a website, it could be posted in a common area. My recollection, and I don't have it in front of me, my recollection is that it is general notice, not individual notice, just that there is an election coming up.
So it's section G, if I may. It says when, as of the close of nominations for director on the board, the number of director nominees is not more than the number of vacancies to be elected as determined by the inspector or inspectors of the election. The director nominees shall be considered elected by acclamation if the association provided individual notice of the election and the procedure for nominating candidates at least 30 days before the close of nominations. So it doesn't become effective, there is no acclamation, if they haven't complied with this notice requirement. 30 days before the close of nominations. Senator Monning. It's on page, if you'd like to look at it, it's page 3, section G. It's an amendment included in the bill.
Yeah, so, and that's also featured page 7, Amendment 4, that the association provides individual notice of the election and the procedure for nominating candidates at least 30 days before the close of nominations. So every member of the HOA will receive notice of the pending election 30 days prior to the close of the nomination period. So if you're the member and you want to run, you can nominate yourself. But I do think there was maybe a little misunderstanding. If this passes, it's not optional for the HOA. It would become the law of the state of California, and it would require a homeowners association to provide this notice 30 days prior, and to allow qualified candidates with only enumerated exemptions so that the existing board couldn't disqualify somebody whimsically, only based on specific acceptable criteria. So I think with the amendments, it provides protections for AOA residents and members, and dues payers, to intervene in an election. They can't, this provision of acclamation only follows, there's not 2 candidates for a single position. So just playing this out, if I could, if you have 3 officer positions, president, vice president, and secretary, and 3 people file for president, 2 people file for president, nobody for one for vice president, 1 for secretary, you can elect the vice president and secretary by acclamation. You're going to hold an election for the contested president position. Is that correct? Did you follow me? You can't exercise the acclamation provisions if you have more than 1 candidate.
Right. So my first response, Senator Monning, is thanks for the clarification.
And then I made it more confusing.
No, you're great. You're great. You're a pro.
Okay.
The second is, usually, it's my understanding that you vote for a slate of candidates. I don't think you vote by officer. I could be corrected by Mr. Parker, but if there are 3 slots open and 8 people run, you have an election. If there are 3 slots open and 2 or 1 or 3 run, I don't think you're voting for them for their particular office. That is done by the board itself.
Got it. Thank you. I follow that clarification as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I do appreciate the clarification offered by these amendments. Would encourage those members here with concerns to read those amendments. Thank you.
We have tried to tighten this up so that these horror stories that many of you have experienced, are not going to translate into this kind of running roughshod with elections by acclamation. And if you take a look at the amendments, this is a bill that I believe Senator Roth worked on last year. We took a number of these amendments in this committee. It was amended even further. My understanding is that Senator Morlock has taken those amendments and then some, so that we think we've tightened this up effectively. Absolutely. Well, that's the hope. Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator, did you have a question? All right, do we have a motion? Moved by Senator Borges as amended. Senator Morlock, the floor is yours to close.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your amendments and your clarifications. I know there are horror stories in dealing with a manipulative board or an unscrupulous board. It's a whole frustrating thing that Senator Wachowski is trying to deal with, but they're not the norm, and we've got over 50,000 homeowners associations that could use a little bit of relief. So, you know, opposing a vote by acclamation doesn't solve their issues, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Very
good. The motion by Senator Borges is to pass as amended to the Senate floor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Jackson? Jackson, aye. Borges? Borges, aye. Allen? Allen, aye. Caballero? Caballero, aye. Jones? Monning? Monning, aye. Stern? Umberg? Wachowski? Wachowski, aye.
That bill has 6 votes, and we'll hold the roll open for the absent members.